All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian with you on Impeachment Day. Okay, now it has not yet happened, so ladies and gentlemen, we will probably get them later in the show. But we're not positive it's going to happen while we're live, but let's hope so. Cross our fingers. So obviously we have impeachment news. We have Donald Trump's insane letter to Nancy Pelosi, and then we've got campaign news. Buttigieg got caught. That was fun.
Yeah, look, I don't like false advertising. I feel like Trump's letter to Pelosi, which we'll get to in just a minute, is really not that insane. It's very Trump-like. It's what you would expect from Trump.
No, I totally agree, but that's exactly the point I was going to make in the story, which we will a little bit later in the program. We just got used to his insanity. I mean, those comments from any other politician in the pre-Trump era, 1 out of the 30 comments would have immediately caused a firestorm that would have been the biggest controversy of the year.
100%.
Anyway, we'll get to that in a second as well. But also news on Elizabeth Warren's campaign. So a lot of drama in the show today.
I like that story.
I know
Mostly
you do.
Because I get to bring back something I said recently on the show.
You got clips? You got receipts?
I do, of course.
Okay, receipts later in the program. All right, let's start with impeachment.
All right, let's do it. Well, let me just note, the House of Representatives is voting on impeachment today, and I just want to warn you guys, it's more of the same. A lot of the same arguments are regurgitated over and over again. However, on the eve of the impeachment vote, Donald Trump wanted to make his thoughts on this impeachment process known in an official fashion, and so he sent a letter to Nancy Pelosi. And as one can expect, he says Trump-like things that would be deemed insane under any other president. But this is Trump, so it's normalized. I'm gonna read you the relevant excerpts and we'll respond to them or make fun of him. So first he says, this impeachment represents an unprecedented and unconstitutional abuse of power by Democrat lawmakers, unequaled in nearly 2.5 centuries of American legislative history.
Well, first of all, it's not unprecedented because 2 other presidents have been impeached. Second of all, it's not unconstitutional because impeachment is in the Constitution.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it's interesting that he uses the phrase abuse of power because that happens to be one of the articles of impeachment against him. It's
also interesting that, like a child, he keeps saying, I'm rubber and you're glue.
Right.
So he says it throughout the letter. He said it throughout his career. That's what unintelligent people say, or to be fair, little kids, when they don't have a good comeback. They're like, oh yeah, you did abuse of power.
Let me give you more. The articles of impeachment introduced by the House Judiciary Committee are not recognizable under any standard of constitutional theory, interpretation, or jurisprudence. They include no crimes, no misdemeanors, and no offenses whatsoever. You have cheapened the importance of the very ugly word impeachment.
Make up your mind. Is it an ugly word or is it super important? He's such a goofball. This is how you know he wrote the letter.
Sort of. I mean,
no. I guarantee you. Look, I don't guarantee it. I'm speculating as to how the letter got written. But knowing Trump and knowing his team, my guess is what happened was his team wrote the letter because it has words he does not know in it,
including it's not just the words; it's the phrasing, like. Constitutional theory he has never uttered those words together.
No way. Constitutional theory. What name so?
And jurisprudence?
No chance that Donald Trump has ever said that. Okay, now I'm exaggerating, but not by much. But that you have cheapened the very ugly word of impeachment is such a Trump thing. Everybody knows that's Trump. So my guess is his guys wrote it and then he edited. Not good enough. I don't know what jurisprudence means, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add something people understand. You've cheapened the very ugly word, impeachment.
Yes.
How could you cheapen a really ugly word?
Yeah, the exclamation marks are certainly his touch. It's his touch, it's what he does. So by proceeding with your invalid impeachment, you are violating your oaths of office, you are breaking your allegiance to the Constitution, and you are declaring open war on American democracy. Now, I want to respond substantively to this. Look, if this were simply a partisan effort to oust Donald Trump and he had done nothing wrong, believe it or not, I would defend him. because that would be wrong and you don't want to set that precedent. The reason why this impeachment process is incredibly important is because he asked a foreign government to, I keep saying dig up dirt on his political rival, Joe Biden, but in reality, he didn't even want Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, to do the investigation. He didn't really care about the investigation. What Trump wanted was the optics of the investigation. He wanted the announcement of the investigation to hurt his political rival, Joe Biden. And at the time, and honestly, in a lot of these polls currently, Joe Biden is leading in the Democratic race, right? And so, yes, he is 100% Trump's political rival. That's why he was hyper-focused on Biden. What's frustrating to me about Democrats is that during these proceedings, they haven't brought up the fact that on camera, Donald Trump urged the leader of China to investigate Biden and Elizabeth Warren, who were the two frontrunners at the time. Come on, guys, wakey, wakey.
And investigate Elizabeth Warren for nothing in particular.
Right.
He's so obvious and praise God, the Democrats. Anyway, but look, let's concentrate on Trump here. I want to just repeat everything here because it's textbook projection. You're violating your oath of office. He's charged with violating his oath of office, abusing his power. You're breaking your allegiance to the Constitution. Instead of protecting American national security interests, he looked for his own personal interests, violating the Constitution, and you're declaring open war on American democracy. I don't know any statement that describes Donald Trump better than declaring open war on American democracy. Just does not believe that the Justice Department should serve the American people. He thinks it should serve him. He is looking to get rid of voters that might now vote for him. He did that through Chris Kobach, and we can go on and on. A violation of the law and procedure and the Constitution repeatedly. That is the number one concern about Donald Trump right now, is that he just does not value American democracy, does not believe in it. He keeps saying, well, dictators in other countries, when in North Korea, when he says something, everybody stands up and applauds. It should be like that here. No, it shouldn't be like a dictatorship here in America. So here we go again. I'm rubber, you're glue. Every one of these things is I'm rubber, you're glue. In reality, this describes him to a T.
So let me give you more. And by the way, this was 6 pages of Trump ranting. So I know there's a lot that I'm sharing with you here, but you should read the full letter so you can kind of get the gist, or the full scope of his insanity. He also writes, even worse than offending the founding fathers, you are offending Americans of faith by continually saying you pray for the president when you know this statement is not true, unless it is meant in a negative sense. He totally wrote that. Yeah, and by the way, he's right about that part.
Oh, thank you. I was gonna say the same thing. That's actually the one thing he's right about. Like when Nancy Pelosi comes in, she's like, I am praying for the president. Oh, come on, okay. Nobody believes that, right. Okay. But it's also childish of Trump to be like, unless you mean it in a negative sense. Okay, whatever. And she's not offending people of faith. She's offending anyone who is put off by obvious political theater.
I only included this next sentence because it made me laugh out loud at my desk. It's the phrasing, it's the way you phrase this. It is a terrible thing you are doing, but you will have to live with it, not I. Come on, not I.
Just this mentality is this big, man. He's just, my God. Anyway, look, Anna and I started the show by talking about this. Like, in a sense, there's no news here because this is the normal madness of Donald Trump, the Mad King, right? On the other hand, if any other president had said one of these lines, it would have been the biggest scandal in his presidency. So I'm gonna get to one a little bit later that I would have ended Obama's presidency. But we're so used to the president being insane that everybody's like, oh right, he wrote an insane letter, okay, now let's move on. Like, because that's what happened, because it's Tuesday, or in this case, Wednesday.
Right. He also says you are turning a policy disagreement between two branches of government into an impeachable offense. Now, what he's referring to there is the military aid, which Congress, which of course includes Republicans, this is a bipartisan effort, appropriated for Ukraine. He held that military aid up, And he claimed that the reason why he was doing so was because he wanted to investigate corruption within Ukraine. But the problem here is he fired the ambassador to Ukraine who was actually fighting corruption in Ukraine, right? So that was Marie Yovanovitch. It was all complete and utter BS, right? Like he doesn't care about corruption. That is not what he was concerned about. What he was more concerned about than anything else was the announcement of the investigation into his political rival, Joe Biden. Let me give you more. You view democracy as your enemy. That's hilarious.
Okay, again, projection. They're gonna study this guy in psychological textbooks.
So I'm gonna bring up a story, reference a story that we did yesterday and talk about the real assault on democracy in America right now. In both Georgia and Wisconsin, Republican lawmakers have purged the voter rolls. And what a surprise, most of the people who have been purged from the polls are likely to vote for Democrats. So that is a real violation of our democratic process, but the GOP doesn't care about that. And by the way, if I were a Democratic lawmaker, I would be hyper-focused on that. I would make a big stink about that every day. If Republicans were victimized that way by Democrats, they would make a big stink about it. They wouldn't let it go. But Democrats, they let it go, and this happens all the time now. Every time there's a big election coming up, voters get purged from the polls. Democrats do nothing about it.
Okay, look, there's that one is among the quotes that I was referring to. There's others. You're interfering. You're the ones interfering in America's elections. You're the ones subverting America's democracy. Here we go again. I'm rubber, you're glue. Nonsense. But you view democracy as your enemy. This is an illegal partisan attempted coup. So if Obama had written any of this to a Republican Speaker of the House, just out of the blue, like if they had, not out of the blue, but like when they did their 9th investigation of Benghazi, and if he said, witch hunt, it's a hoax, it's fake news, okay, it's an attempted coup.
Not I.
Yeah, no, it is the one, you are the one doing it, you bad person, not I, okay. Any of this, we'd have been like, okay, well, I guess Obama's got to go, and the Democrats would have stepped in and said it's becoming a distraction. Biden's good enough as vice president to move on. Like this is, but the emperor has no clothes, but we got used to it. Oh yeah, the emperor's walking around naked, a total raving lunatic madman.
Luckily not literally walking around naked, that would be unfortunate. But Pelosi did respond to this. So she was talking to reporters on Capitol Hill, and here's what she had to say in regard to Trump's letter.
Your reaction to the president's letter?
No reaction, it's ridiculous.
You have no reaction, why not?
No, I haven't really fully read it. We've been working. I've seen the essence of it though, and it's really sick.
So that was her response, it was really sick. And of course, that led to a number of right-wingers in the media losing their minds over what she had to say.
Oh, come on.
It was just, yeah.
I mean, look, so Trump yells at her at the top of his lungs like a madman. They're like, bravo, and we'll get to that in a minute. Oh, wow, brilliant scholarly work. Come on, you lunatics. All right, and then Pelosi says, man, that's sick. And they're like, oh, how dare she? I'm so offended. Can you believe she said something so mean about Donald Trump?
No, you guys.
Really? Come on, guys, you're all unbelievable liars.
He said in the letter, he wrote in the letter, more due process was afforded to those accused in the Salem witch trials.
Okay.
Come on, guys. It's just ridiculous.
Look, if you're a Republican voter, aren't you annoyed by your own politics? I get it, you're in love with Donald Trump and I got it. I don't wanna hear what you think of him, okay? But when your politicians come out and go, oh, that letter by Donald Trump was perfect and it was just the right tone. But can you believe Pelosi said he was sick? Like, don't you think like, yeah, dude, give it a rest, right? Like when Pelosi says, oh, I'm praying for the president, we say, give it a rest. We know you're not praying for the president. I mean, I don't know, do Republican voters care about the truth at all anymore about anything? Or are they like, oh yeah, my God, poor Donald Trump, I can't believe Pelosi called him sick.
No, but it's interesting. So I'm sure there's some portion of Republican voters, I'm not talking about lawmakers. Lawmakers know what's going on, right? They're there, they're living it. But I would venture to say that some of the voters just don't trust the media. And for the longest time, I didn't really understand it because I'm like, I mean, but it's right here. I mean, they're using Trump's own words. They're showing you Trump's videos. Like the evidence is right in front of you. But now more than ever, I can understand why people are so distrustful of the media. When the media regurgitates smears of people they don't like, they need to understand what they're doing, unfortunately, is they're losing complete credibility, complete trust from people that we need to believe the truth, right?
Yeah, and look, I get it. Obviously, 77% of Americans believe there's fake news. So how's that for devastating? And that's not all Republicans. But in this case, all they're doing is quoting Donald Trump. And Hannity and Lou Dobbs and the rest are like, thinks this is the greatest letter ever. They don't dispute it at all. But anytime there's something negative, it doesn't matter if it's Trump himself saying it. MAGA guys are like, nope, fake news. Trump said it. How can it be fake news if Trump said it? Nope, damaging. So it's fake news.
Right.
I bet Pelosi said it. Okay, I mean, what are you gonna do with madness? But last thing that I liked here is that I also liked that he had to read 6 pages for the first time in his life. So anyway, he said, I write this letter to you for the purpose of history and to put my thoughts on a permanent and indelible record. First of all, he didn't write the indelible part, never heard of that
100%.
word. He's like, indelible, why? Did we get a pastrami sandwich from the indelible record? Okay, anyway, but I'm amused by the idea because he's like, oh yeah, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, this is going on your permanent record. Let's see if you get into college now.
That's hilarious. All right, well, let's get to the Republican reaction to the letter because it's very different from the reaction you just saw on this show. So, following Donald Trump's angry, ranting letter toward Nancy Pelosi over the impeachment investigation, a number of right-wingers on television and in the media defended Trump and the letter itself, saying that it was excellent, it was perfect. And what you're about to see, I promise you, is not an SNL act. This is real life. This is what they claim they really believe.
The president today wrote a beautiful letter, a terrific letter.
A powerful, scathing beatdown.
And he did so today with a scathing letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
I hope everybody has a chance to read that letter.
That historic marker.
It's hard hitting.
That standard he put down.
I mean, the letter is hard hitting, but the letter is pretty darn, on point.
It was comprehensive.
Yeah, everybody should go read that letter. It is a masterpiece. It is the Gettysburg Address of smear job, false accusations.
In point of fact, it was elegant.
What a response. It's a historical document.
The president really pointed out the flaws and the arguments.
I loved every word of his letter.
I think the president was absolutely right.
I'm glad that he wrote it.
I'm glad that he did it.
What the president did was lay out the procedural flaws in the House process.
The president is teaching Republicans how to fight.
I think it was well written, and it was definitely worth it.
You come at him with a club, and he's going to come at you with something bigger and harder.
It put her and the radical Dems who have attacked this president mercilessly for over 3 years precisely where they should be.
President Trump went on to utterly destroy the Pelosi and the Democrats and the Schiff show and the Nutty Nadler Schiff show.
The ignorance is institutionalized amongst the party of hate.
The president also shredding Pelosi's second claim.
They read this letter and they immediately pounced. Watch.
Another wonderful JR-rated compilation. For the woman, I don't know what her name is, who said that it was beautifully written. Here's one line, my favorite line from the 6-page letter. It is a terrible thing you are doing, but you will have to live with it, not I. Like, it's just like, it's nonsense. It's just 6 pages of complete and utter nonsense. I'd be shocked if they actually read it, right? They're just primed and ready to defend it no matter what.
The name of that woman was Amy Tarkanian. She's the one who said, I loved every word of this letter. Look, I'm gonna be fair to Laura Ingraham. She said it was scathing and it was hard hitting. Those are true. It was scathing and that was Donald Trump's way of fighting back, over the top, super aggressive. So, she said it was on point. Obviously, we disagree on that, but it's okay to call the letter tough or hard hitting. But calling it beautiful, Elegant. Lou Dobbs called it elegant. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Terrific. Comprehensive. A historic marker. Like, seriously, I mean, look, I don't know how to categorize guys like Lou Dobbs. First thought is Sith Lord. All he needs is a little hood over because he's got the red eyes.
Yeah.
So he's already like 3/4 of the way towards being a Sith Lord.
No, I've been asking myself, like, how is it possible for someone to defend Trump even with like this flood of evidence proving that he's a bad guy who doesn't actually respect our Constitution or democracy? And I think it's because he's high. Like, his eyes are so bloodshot. He's sedated. He's on something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
kidding.
if he went to the house where they told him to get out, but he didn't, and he had a lobotomy. I don't know, but like, has he lost his mind? But like, it's one thing to defend Donald Trump. Like I said, Laura Ingraham saying scathing, and that shows how to fight for Republicans, etc. I get it. I don't agree, but I get it. But to call it elegant and beautiful and masterpiece, now you kind of have to lose your mind. Like you. And what I'm trying to figure out is, did he lose his control of his mind? Or is he just like, yeah, man, who cares? Like, no holds barred, let's just lie. Let's like just take everything and turn it on its head so we can get in power and make sure that minorities don't run this country. Whatever, dude, let's just go. All right, what should we call it? Maybe they have like a running gag in the production room. They're like, what do you, how about like pretty? And he's like, not good enough. Well, let's go with it, beautiful.
I mean, it's a word that he uses a lot, right? It was a beautiful call. It was a perfect call. It's a lot of the language that he uses when he's defending himself, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And then apparently it was like the Gettysburg Address. 402 clowns ago. Okay, so no, but guys, last thing on this is important. It's funny because it's so absurd, but it's real life and they're in power. So our country has now become so divided that a certain percentage of it just does not believe in reality anymore. They see insane letters where Donald Trump is yelling at the top of his lungs at the Speaker of the House, charging her with an attempted coup and saying that she's the one that's somehow abused her office when he's the one charged with abuse. But I mean, all the insane things that he writes in there, and they look at it and they think, no, that's a beautiful, poetic Gettysburg Address-like letter. They really believe it. So the Fox News guys, I don't know if they believe it or they're just getting paid for it, but their audience totally believes it.
Yep.
It's at least a third of the country. A third of the country is walking around like zombies, believing things that are not remotely true. How do we interact? We don't speak the same language anymore. They just refuse to believe in facts. So, man, that's a real giant problem for this country.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we will show you examples of Republican hypocrisy when it comes to the impeachment. And it's not a video or a compilation that we put together. It's actually a video put together by other Republicans who want to hold Trump accountable. Yes, they exist. We'll be right back.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Let me read one YouTube super chat first. William Emberson says, Cenk and Anna are killing it with commentary on Trump's letter. I just wish the impeachment had teeth. In the words of Keenan, hashtag ain't nothing gonna happen. Guys, I wanna talk about this a little bit later, but yeah, I got a feeling of a little bit of gloom, kind of like I did right before the election about this impeachment process today. So like, I was like, oh no, I think the Democrats have made a significant mistake. Okay, but let's do that a little bit later. Let me read you now member comments. Sheikh Yer Buttigieg writes in, oh, Sheikh Yer Buttigieg, I got it. Don, I read it so earnestly. Sheikh Yer Buttigieg. Anyway, Donnie's getting head start on Festivus. The airing of grievances is a Festivus tradition. After dinner will be feats of strength. The fake Christian is hoping for a Festivus miracle if he thinks he can avoid impeachment. All right, Sheikh, I enjoyed that comment. I bathe in Trump's Twitter's tears. wrote this. Just renewed my membership. After watching TYT for a few years, I was in a Discord server where someone on the right wing tried to spew talking point after talking point, and I was able to dismantle each one of them with great ease to the point where he had to revert to, well, you can't trust independent news sources, they all have an agenda. I give huge thanks to TYT for educating me on these issues so that I could do that. It felt so good.
Thank you.
That's really great to hear. Thank you so much. TYT.com/join and become a member. Get the show, all of it, anytime you want. And TYT.com/gift if you want to give it as a Christmas gift. And please participate in the affiliate program. That way you can make money selling membership. It's TYT.com/win-win to find out more. It almost sounds like a Trump thing. Win-win. Okay, anyway, Aqualad, sorry that I even brought that up. Last one, Aqualad writes in, my representative is Bob Latta. I never felt the need to write him, but I did today. Something about seeing him give Trump talking points really drove the point home that all Republicans are the same. I think this is a really important point that's being made here. He said, I told him how unbelievably disappointed I was with his blind loyalty or unbelievable ignorance. I don't expect him to read my letter, but I had to voice my feelings. This whole process really making me consider running for office someday. Yeah, look, that's an important point because there is no distance between the Republican Party and Donald Trump. And so when you see the mainstream media gaslighting you like Donald Trump is some sort of exception, remember, every single Republican, with the exception of Justice Amash, who no longer is a Republican that we're gonna get to in a second, is voting with Donald Trump. So there's no distance at all. The Republican Party is the exact same thing as Donald Trump. So if you think Donald Trump has lost his mind, every Republican representative nationally, every Republican senator has lost their mind just like Donald Trump. All right, what's next?
Okay, so the House of Representatives is debating and also voting on the articles of impeachment, which include abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Now, the arguments that you're likely to hear from this congressional meeting is similar to what you've already been hearing. However, one speech did stand out, and that was the speech given by former Republican Justin Amash. Now, he left the Republican Party after the Mueller report was revealed. He read the full report and realized that Donald Trump did in fact obstruct justice in the Mueller investigation. And so he's giving a speech in front of the House of Representatives to explain why Donald Trump's actions with the government officials in Ukraine should lead to his impeachment and removal. Take a look.
I rise today in support of these articles of impeachment. I come to this floor not as a Democrat, not as a Republican, but as an American who cares deeply about the Constitution, the rule of law, and the rights of the people. Impeachment is about maintaining the integrity of the office of the presidency and ensuring that executive power is directed toward proper ends in accordance with the law. We need not rely on any other branch or body to endorse our determinations. We have the sole power of impeachment. In Federalist number 65, Alexander Hamilton wrote that high crimes and misdemeanors, quote, are those offenses which proceed from the misconduct of public men, or in other words, from the abuse or violation of some public trust. They are of a nature which may, with peculiar propriety, be denominated political, as they relate chiefly to injuries done immediately to the society itself, end quote. President Donald J. Trump has abused and violated the public trust by using his high office to solicit the aid of a foreign power, not for the benefit of the United States of America, but instead for his personal and political gain.
It's very rare to see anyone in politics or the media be principled these days. And while I'm sure I disagree with Justin Amash on a number of political issues and social issues, I give him a lot of credit because he's putting his political career on the line to be principled and do the right thing, and that's something to applaud.
100%. So he's actually one of the most right-wing guys in Congress, and so on policies we disagree with him on an overwhelming majority of the cases. But there's no way around the fact that he showed incredible courage And for that, he was shown the door. The Republican Party turned on him en masse, as expected. And they said, principles? What kind of a monster are you with principles and caring about facts and the law and the Constitution? We don't do that here. We're craven. So in their rejection of Justin Amash, who is a deep conservative, he was part of the Freedom Caucus, the most conservative branch in the House. In their rejection of him, they proved that they never cared about principles. All they care about is partisanship and raw power. And so it's great to see Amash making the case here. But one more thing that's important, it always takes former Republicans to fight hard. Because, and again, because he's a former Republican doesn't mean he's a progressive or even a moderate. He's still very right wing, he's just no longer in the party. And so Democrats should be saying the things that Amash said. Remember why Amash flipped? He flipped before Ukraine, because he read the Mueller report. And he's like, this is 10 cases of obstruction of justice. There's no way around it. It is plain as day. No human being can read this report and not think that Donald Trump broke the law. They didn't charge him with that. They didn't put it as one of the articles of impeachment. The Democrats didn't. Here's a former Republican who's deeply right-wing going, why didn't you charge him with that? And so I had this a little bit sense of doom here as I saw Nadler speaking. And I like Nadler and he's pushed for impeachment, so I'm not against him. But as he was talking today about how there's a clear pattern of wrongdoing, I thought, man, that sounds vague. No, he broke campaign finance law with the Ukraine call. He did extortion. He broke campaign finance laws in regards to the hush money. His co-conspirators in prison. And he did obstruction of justice in the Russia case and the Ukraine case. That is 5 things that are illegal. Illegal, say illegal.
Yes.
They were afraid to say illegal, but then it sounds vague. He also said, to our founding generation, Nadler did, abuse of power was a specific, well-defined offense. Maybe to our founding fathers, but not so much today. And so the Democrats, I'm so afraid they might have bungled this.
So I think you're making such a good point about the abuse of power charge and how vague they're being. Because remember, Republicans during the Obama administration constantly argued that he was abusing his powers simply by signing executive orders, right? So if you are a voter, a Republican voter, conservative voter who isn't paying close attention to these impeachment hearings and you hear the phrase abuse of power in regard to Donald Trump, well then you're gonna think about the Obama administration and how you believed and Republicans overall believed he was abusing his power, and you're gonna think that there's some sort of double standard here. When in reality, there isn't a double standard. What Obama did was legal. What Trump has been doing is illegal, encouraging and actually coercing a foreign government to meddle in our elections. That is illegal. That undermines our entire democratic process.
Now I'm positive they made a mistake.
Of course they did.
So abuse of power sounds like your opinion, man. Breaking the law sounds like something you should get impeached over. God, the Democrats are so weak. God, they're unbelievably weak. What is wrong with saying he broke the law? Well, they overthink it. Well, what if we can't, but they're gonna think it's a criminal trial instead of a political trial. Maybe we're gonna offend Republican voters. And you know one of the things they're afraid of, and I also realized that today, and it's my bad that I have to not point this out earlier. I have in other contexts, but not in this context. So they're really worried about the Republicans using this to raise more money. It's not that they were worried about the poll numbers. It's not that they're worried about, it's gonna swing momentum in the elections towards Donald Trump. They're worried that the Republicans are gonna raise more money because the Republican voters are mad, right? And they're obsessed with money. So that's why there's this this is solemn and sad and we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. And I don't know that it's illegal, but I would abuse of power. Please don't get mad and give them money. Oh my God, oh my God.
Again, they lead from a place of fear and they think that voters are dumb and that they can't see through what they're doing, right? And so when they approach this whole impeachment investigation from a place of fear and they water down, they themselves are watering down what Trump has done. Well, then they're gonna lose the whole thing, and Trump is still gonna have an easy time raising money because he's going to as he always does, take control of the entire narrative, and he's gonna make himself the victim. And that's exactly what he's been doing. It's a witch hunt. They're coming after me. They can't get over what happened in 2016.
Man, maybe Amash should lead the proceedings. No, but seriously, the House sends over House managers to actually be the prosecutors in the Senate trial. So once they take the impeachment vote and Donald Trump is impeached later today, I think put Amash in there. Why? I never want to help conservatives or Republicans. It's not about helping Amash. It's about, you don't have very many fighters, so you might as well take an ex-Republican because that guy will at least fight.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we have more on the impeachment. There were some pretty big stories today, including Tulsi Gabbard's views on impeachment and how she wants to go in a completely different direction. We'll be right back.